I've seen so many YouTube videos on how to find your art style and they are helpful in some ways. But what if I tell you you don't need to find your art style? Come on Yash, isn't that something an artist should have to get their art noticed? Well, yes, you're right, and that's why you don't need to find it because you already have it, dummy. You just don't consider it to be an art style because you think it's not worthy enough to be called one. If we break down an art style to its bare bones, it is simply an artist's preferred way of drawing stuff, or it is an artist's personal interpretation and simplification of reality. So as long as you're drawing stuff and interpreting the reality in your way, you have an art style. The ugly looking portrait you draw, yes, it's an art style. The splotchy pieces you draw, art style. The weird looking characters you make, art style. The painting you made of your homie oiled up. The point of all this blabbering is that you need to stop looking for an art style and start focusing on developing it. Because simply by changing a sentence from I'm gonna find my art style to I'm gonna develop my art style makes a huge mental shift. Or maybe not, but it does prepare you for the upcoming bumps in your art journey. Okay, with that being said, let's address the elephant in the room. You don't like the art style you have right now. Well, neither do I. So we are in this together, bub. And that's why I'm gonna tell you how to develop your art style. So, I already mentioned that the art style is an interpretation of reality by the artist, which is mostly led by the personal preferences and inspiration of that artist, which is variable for different artists. But you know what is not variable? Reality. Unless you have some crazy mind-boggling powers to change reality. In that case, I don't think being an artist is an idle job for you. Anyways, my point being, every art piece is based on fragments of reality unless we are talking about abstract art. So to interpret reality effectively, you need to understand the reality first. And how can you understand the reality? Expect the unexpected.
You take the blue pill, the story ends.
Wait, that's not what I'm talking about. The fundamentals. This is not that surprising because it's the most important cold hard fact that you need to accept if you wanna pursue art seriously. For starters, if you pay close attention, you'll find out that every great artist you follow has gone down the path of realism at some point of their career. So a conclusion can be drawn by this. It is that realism allows them to stylize effectively. Because of realism, they know how a certain thing looks or works in reality, so they can pretty much tweak the hell out of it and still make it believable and beautiful as fuck. So a really good analogy I like to use for this is, let's say your art style is a bird. Doesn't matter which bird. So in the starting stage of its life, it goes through a necessary phase of nourishment inside the egg, and at the end of that phase, it breaks out of the egg. Now replace the eggshell with fundamentals. So your art style, which is the bird, needs the shell of fundamentals to get those nourishment points in order to grow up as a healthy, beautiful looking bird. But if it doesn't get those necessary nutrients, it might turn out to be a mutated alien looking creature who can't even walk properly and think that the world is meant to be ruled by it. Okay, not exactly, but you get the idea. Fundamentals? You need it. End of the story. Now, what are the fundamentals is a topic which needs a video of its own because it differs for every person with different ambitions with art. So we are not gonna step into that sacred land just yet. So, am I saying that you need to learn all the fundamentals before you can draw in your style? Nope. That will pretty much hold you back if I'm being honest. You can't just pledge not to draw in your art style just because you don't know the fundamentals yet. And if you're really making a conscious decision that from now on you will only focus on fundamentals and will not draw stylized stuff till you master the fundamentals, then be prepared to draw in the fucking afterlife. Because there will always be a ton of stuff to learn no matter how hard you try. Because this syllabus spans up to infinity. So please scrap that idea of mastering all the fundamentals and accept that you're gonna be learning for your entire life. So the only thing you can do right now is to take the leap of faith. Just let the self-doubt and perfectionism go and jump into it. And by it, I mean the piece you always wanted to draw or the stuff you like to draw, but you are hesitant to do so because you think you're not good enough to pull it off. I know it's harder said than done, but you really gotta do it, man. You gotta break that shell. What do you think these successful artists did? They all did the same thing. They took the leap of faith. Because if you look closely, you'll see that none of these artists are perfect. They all lack something in their art, but they also got their strong points, which kinda overshadows their weaknesses. And the fact that these weaknesses exist in their art is what makes them human. I know the fact that AI is powerful and is creating art that is surprisingly good, but at the end of the day, those will always be images because AI can never produce phenomenal art pieces as it will always lack that human touch. Well, this doesn't mean that you can simply create masterpieces just by being human. Nope, that's not gonna happen. These artists obviously had to put a lot of effort in their craft and develop the necessary skills to produce this kind of work. But at the end of the day, all that matters the most is what they did with the skills they had. So it all boils down to how you're using the skills that you have right now at this moment. I wanna mention this quote which I already talked about in my previous video. If you're feeling that you got art block, you can check that out on the I button. This quote is from a book called Art and Fear. What you have right now is exactly what you need to produce your best work. This means it doesn't matter which skill you have or don't have right now, you've got enough skills to do your best work at this moment. In short, don't worry about what you don't have, just get to work. A great way to approach the fundamentals is to assume that you have the 10 shadow technique like Megumi. The fundamentals are the 10 shadows and the exorcism is drawing. So to perform the exorcism effectively, you need to tame the 10 shadows. Now, do you need to tame all the 10 shadows before you can perform exorcism? No, you gotta work with what you have. If you have 3 shadows, you gotta work with them. If you got 1 shadow, you gotta work with it. And if you got no shadows, you gotta fight with those good old knuckles. I think it's getting complicated. The point is, you don't need to wait till you have mastered all the fundamentals. You gotta work with what you have and learn the fundamentals slowly and steadily to improve your art style on the side. So what you gotta do? You gotta divide the sea. I mean, not literally. I don't expect you to be the Moses. The sea represents the time you have for work. Half of the sea is to study the fundamentals and half of the sea is to draw what you want. The creativity stuff. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Now there's one more thing you can do to develop your art style at a faster pace. That's to copy other artists' work. And by copy, I mean steal. Yeah, we are going full pirate mode out here. I'm just kidding. Don't steal, just take without asking. In the process of copying, you have to be the artist you're copying. You have to get in their mind and try to understand the thought process of that artist when they drew the piece you're copying right now. Don't just mindlessly copy, try to recreate the piece while taking notes of the peculiar things they do and understand why they do those peculiar things. In short, just study your favorite artist's work. And to be clear, I'm not telling you to copy their art and post it as your own. That's plagiarism right there. So you gotta keep those study pieces to yourself. But if you really want to post those online, then give credits to the original artist. So the whole gist of this video is, you already have an art style, so you don't need to find it, you need to develop it. You have to understand the fundamentals in order to stylize effectively, and you can really improve your art style by studying other artists. So yeah, that's about it. See you on the next one.